teleportation is another form of that travel thing that I was talking about earlier. That's actually one of my 5 that I would pick. Because teleportation to me, that not only does that give you that instantaneous, I'm just gonna pop over to Italy and get a pizza, or I'm gonna bypass all the stuff I talked about earlier with it. I don't have to pay for gas and screw FedEx. I'll just go and pick it up myself and that kind of crap. But telekinesis, not like telekinesis, teleportation also gives you kind of that ability that Sam was talking about with, the laziness of everything. And I know that it's not necessarily the hardcore rule when it comes to teleportation in comics and movies and all that, where you can teleport objects that you're not touching. Usually that's the kind of hindrance to it. You have to be touching, you have to know where you're going, and you have a limitation of how far you could go or how many people you can hold on to, any of that kind of stuff. But I have seen in stuff before where you can just teleport other things. So, you're looking at a building and you could teleport it because you're looking at it and all that. If you could do that, imagine the kind of stuff that you can go crazy with. The movie was awful, but Jumper showed a lot of those kind of possibilities. He's teleporting inside of a bank and teleporting out. You never got to worry about getting caught unless there's Sam Jackson with white hair and a fucking electric cattle prod for some reason.
But there's the limitation of that power, though. Are you going to be like Jumper, where you could go wherever you can imagine, or are you going to be like Nightcrawler, where you have to see where you're going?
See, I've ever since I was young, before I even knew too much about the character, I really liked Nightcrawler, and like my pick for a power, it's so hard to make up my mind, but teleportation is one of my, it's really up on my list. And I know, between the character design and he can like stick to walls and shit, and the teleportation, I think it's awesome. And from what I've read, I'm pretty sure with his teleportation, he's got some kind of sense where he can kind of know his immediate surroundings, I think it was. So he doesn't like get stuck in walls depending how close he is. Like he can tell that.
That's just because he's blue.
Oh, that's what.
It's a side effect of the blue.
It's the hair, but
the tail.
I always thought that was pretty cool, and I mean, there's. How does his work? He goes into a different dimension, right? That's where the sulfur smell comes from.
Yeah.
You sure that's not from Fartman?
And it's this alternate dimension that's got its own monsters and shit or something, and it's apparently really dangerous. And it's just
they had that on the newer X-Men cartoon, where they actually put a belt around him. Yeah, and it slowed down his teleportation so that he could actually see the world that he was in between his teleporting.
Wow. Wait, so does that mean Azazel has the same... he does the same thing? He goes to a different dimension for a split second?
He was to the Red Universe.
What's
Red
that?
versus Blue.
Oh, yeah. So wait. Fucking... Was that Wolverine in the X-Men? The newest cartoon? Sam?
It was the X-Men Evolution cartoon.
Oh yeah, that came out before Wolverine and the X-Men, I think.
Yeah. Couple years.
Yeah.
That was the one where they were all teenagers and
yeah, and Rogue actually didn't have Miss Marvel's powers. She was just the fucking
just
Fox
the touch
movies.
power.
Yeah, fucking.
And Avalanche was Lance Alvers.
Yeah, what?
It's really...
That's fucking terrible.
So stupid.
Lance Alvers. What should we call him? I don't know. Alver Lanch. But, yeah, the teleportation thing I've always thought was a really cool power. And because of how beneficial it could be.
Yeah, if it came with some built-in mental...
Safeguards.
Yeah, safeguards so that you could teleport wherever without fear of getting fucking stuck in a wall. I think that would probably be the one of the best ones to have, because I mean, we talked about going evil earlier. I would just fucking rob like one bank and I'd be set for life.
Yeah,
that'd be the first thing I'd do. Fuck, don't listen to this, law enforcement, because if I start teleporting, I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious.
If we're talking about law enforcement shouldn't do this, they should not hear my 5 plan out of all the powers, because the way that I had that set up, it was really fucking awful.
I've already talked about squishing people with their own fucking shirts, so...
The teleportation was just the escape route for me. I had a whole lot more for this. Which included also what I guess I would classify as number 4 power, maybe number 3.
Knowing you're in a comic book.
Which would be self-replication. Now, they've also called it biofusion or biofission or cloning or any of that kind of stuff. But it's basically... Multiple man, yeah. Where you can split off, but then you'll merge back together and you won't lose the consciousness of that.
His movie was terrible. Multiplicity, Michael Keaton.
That movie was awesome. Do not talk shit on Multiplicity.
One of the things that drives me nuts all the time is how I have so many projects to work on and so little time to work on them. So imagine how great it would be if you could have like 15.
I love how low key you're thinking. Like, man, if I was a superhero, how could I get my shit done more efficiently?
Right, because
you're not thinking about like how it's gonna fucking change your life completely. No, I'm still gonna do the website stuff.
Or think about how much more your girlfriend will love you because they're.
I don't know. I mean, Dr. Manhattan tried that, and he got fucking yelled at. So
yeah, he did.
Yeah, but then he also looked like that.
That's very true.
I don't know. I mean,
this is sexual Tony Mango. Multiple sexual Tony Mangos.
I don't mind looking like that if I'm fucking cut like he was cut. Because he was a hot piece of man ass, let me tell you. I don't care if that ass is blue.
I still remember a friend of mine used to call him Captain Manhood because his junk was showing.
Yeah, I started calling him Dr. Manhood when I was watching it in the middle of Watchmen. Maybe I'm your friend that you're imagining with that.
Maybe.
But yeah, like, it would be like a lot of those practical everyday things. Obviously, they're some of the things that have come through my mind over the years, and then it would get worse and worse and worse because
I'm a superhero and I don't always have time to go to the market.
Right.
So I punch myself so my duplicate comes out and I send them to the market.
Yeah, like, you know, in the different thing where it's not as glamorous. Like, imagine what you could do with multiple versions of yourself where you don't have to worry about well, now there's 10 of me and where do we live? Like, you just all merge back together. You would have that person who can go spend time working and building money for yourself while you goof off. You could have that person who sleeps while you work, so you don't have to worry about your health for that reason.
And it would be easier to maintain anonymity because if there's one version of you always somewhere in the world, then...
Exactly, and that plays into my whole the crime thing, you know. You can have multiple versions of yourself teleporting all over the place, stealing a whole bunch of bank vault contents, and then they're going to be like, well, they couldn't possibly be in Cairo and in New York at the same time when we have video footage of him in Paris. And, you know, like...
I see one problem, though, with your theory. If you don't want to go to work, then when you split into, say, just 2 Tonys, why is Tony number 2 going to want to go to work? He is you.
I've actually thought about that before, and it's because
he's already planned out his own self-argument.
I actually have. This is the stuff I think about at 8 in the morning when I haven't gone to sleep for 40 hours, and I'm in the middle of working on Fanboys Anonymous and stuff like that.
He's just up in the mirror, fucking pale as shit with some big raccoon eyes. Listen,
I'm going to
stay here and go to bed.
I'm setting up multiple mirrors so I see reflections of myself and argue with them to go along with the point. But no, like, I do so much crap, and we all do, so much crap that we don't want to do. And if we do that as we are, then that we already have that aspect in ourselves. So one version of me would be fine with, like, all right, well, I guess I got to go do that because it's for the better whole of everything. And the same with what happens like with your duplicates when they like merge into you? Do they like technically feel like they die, or like is anybody going to have a problem with I'm the real one and you're not? There's no problem with that because you're just going to merge back into you anyway. It's not like a full-on clone like the Ben Reilly Peter Parker situation where You have to actually argue you're the clone. No, I'm I'm the real one and all that.
Fuck Ben Reilly.
So I would love that kind of a power for real world application for that. You could run your own sweatshop in your own basement.
What if you developed schizophrenia?
What if you needed that as a requirement or something?
Do any of you watch Misfits?
No.
I do.
Mm-mm.
So you know the guy who has two separate personalities who are like they actually split off from him, sort of like multiple men.
Right, but each one is like the embodiment of an emotion.
Yeah, one of them's like a sissy. The main character, like the character himself, is like a smart ass, and then the third one, who was introduced like in the most current season, he's like evil. He's like a dick and was like locked up in jail or whatever, and like actually murderous. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I was going with that, but
where you going find for more of maybe if you self-replicate that you're gonna branch off those aspects of yourself, and one version of you is going to be the one who actually is courageous, and the other one's going to be the one who has insecurities, and
it's like multiplicity.
You can choose which one it is, like, and that way the one that you send to work is the workaholic section of you, so that he doesn't want to argue. He's like, oh, I get to go to work, awesome. And then
right.
The rest of
no one
like,
has that section inside of themselves.
Like multiplicity.
But what happens if one say in Tony's case, what happens if one of them dies? Not that Tony would die, but what if it is emotion or personality based?
Well,
what if like happy and joyous Tony, say he gets mugged and stabbed and he dies? Does that mean when Tony's other forms all come back together, Tony will never be happy again?
I think that's the way it works.
Well, if we're going with our own made up rules for this kind of a thing,
nope, we're dissecting your powers one by one.
Right.
You're not allowed to go, I'd be super strong too because I have my 5-point plan. No,
right.
sorry.
But no, if you were going for that, you'd have to take into account if your personality aspects are splitting off, you either... Now, this would be thrown out the window. I would never want to do it if every time you split one off, like I'm going to make version 1A is going to be the workaholic. Well, then the empty husk of myself doesn't have the workaholic in them. I was kind of operating under the assumption that you would still have that, and would it just kind of be like cellular mitosis, where the one splits and it's two of the same exact thing, as opposed to
I'm wondering about
doing it that way.
I'm wondering about like I would fucking murder the shit out of myself if it was like I could separate certain aspects of myself and force myself to become a better individual. So I could like separate myself from my laziness and murder it, and when it comes back into me, like that laziness is gone. I would be a better person.
There's a psychological factor to this. Like, what if you split off from yourself and it's two exact copies, and you find out that you can't stand yourself?
Oh, well,
what if you just do absolutely nothing because you make like 5 of yourself and you just go fuck yourself for like a week and a half?
But you were saying with you'd like to kill those aspects about yourself. What happens if you separate? You go like, well, I don't really like the version of me that's shy, and you make that clone or whatever you want to call it, and it turns out that that's the one that's actually a liar. It's actually like you're getting rid of your ability to lie.
That would suck.
It's an issue of a comic.
Well, what happens when you're old and like you can't remember where parts of you are?
Very good point.
That's a good point.
Or you see yourself and you don't know it's you.
You're like, why can't I replicate that guy over there?
I imagine this would breed some kind of weird identity crisis if you used it too much.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's one to think about. Another one that I would want to bring up, obviously, telepathy and mind control and all that. And that is, flat out, you can't deny the benefits of that, being able to mind control people, read people's minds.
I need to say, as I would not pick that power, because first off, some of the negative aspects, like the people who can't turn it off, that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that I don't want to know what people are thinking. Like, I mean, I'm all for privacy. I don't want to. I think it's too much. I don't know. It crosses a weird line for me that I don't know that I'm comfortable enough.
Yeah,
Like,
do you really want to know what, say, your parents think of you or your best friends think of
and
you?
even or you could like think of it. Say you get in the head of someone who has some severe like mental problems, and then you live with that because that impacts you personally, because then you've essentially lived it yourself, and now that stain is going to be with you for the rest of your life because you were in the head of like a schizophrenic, and so you've had it for X amount, or like however long.
What about purely the Jedi mind trick? These aren't the droids you're looking for, and
that would be more like in line with like deception than complete and utter control over someone's mind.
So I don't know, man. I really enjoyed like Matt from Heroes when he snaps.
Nobody enjoyed Matt from Heroes.
No, when he snaps and he controls an entire building full of soldiers and makes them all fucking kill each other. That was awesome.
Or he locks people within their own minds and makes them vegetables.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. But when he snapped, I don't think anything could top that.
I think the burden would be way too severe. I don't think it's worth the setbacks that you would get.
Well, yeah, he did eventually, try to go drop it cold turkey, like reading people's minds, because he was just overdoing it. And I could see that happening. I don't want to know what people think all the time. I mean, sometimes sure, but like
you'd have to be able to get the
like,
discretion for it and turn it off and not abuse it, which is incredibly difficult. I don't know if there's anybody in the world that would be able to do it.
And it's like Nick said, with if you had telepathy, you could be able to train it up to get it stronger. What if training to read somebody's mind makes it more powerful, which would just make it on all the time? What if you accidentally trained yourself to become so powerful that it drove you insane?
Well, yeah. What if it's like a muscle where you can actually overextend your muscle and hurt it?
And because all the negative consequences go right into your brain. That is the one place I don't want any fucking accidents to happen. I mean, if you fuck it up just once, you're permanently scarred.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have low-level telepathy, then what if you try to read somebody's mind? Like, what if they're bilingual? Like, what if they're thinking in Spanish?
Yeah.
Couldn't you kind of just learn Spanish?
You could learn Spanish, but I mean, it's a thing though that people actually. I mean, obviously they think in the language that they speak. Because I asked a girl who speaks Spanish at my store the other day. I asked her because she speaks she'll speak Spanglish all the time. I'm like, because she speaks both, like they're both her primary language. It's weird. It's really weird. But I was like, what do you think? Like when you think, do you think in Spanish or English? And she's like, both. Like both at the same time. I'm like, what? Like I can't even wrap my brain around.
Well,
that.
I mean, I've had a similar.
Yeah,
I've had a similar problem with that since I speak German. I've actually had dreams in German.
Really?
Yeah, and I've thought something in my head in German and then had to stop and think, wow, why did I think it in German? Why didn't I just think it in English?
Because it was a hateful
really
thought. I don't know. There's with any of these powers too. You gotta keep in mind they all have some negative consequences, and we all kind of a lot of them we kind of bypass. Like, what if you have the ability to fly, but you don't have that ability to withstand like the ear pressure problems? Like,
oh man, this is so cool.
Yeah, what if you fly too fast and something hit you in the face?
Right, yeah.
All your organs come out of your butt.
Friction from your air. What if the organs come out of your butt from those crazy parts? Like,
I was talking about flying, but that works.
I thought you were going for the ass.
Can you imagine being in the city where you're like, oh, that dude's, oh no, it's his organs. Oh god, they came out of his ass. It's just raining like fucking 2 miles or however long of intestines all over like a city block. Because you accidentally hit Mach 1.
The number one that I would say though is obviously a little bit of a cheat, but and it only has like one real fault for it, which I'm sure is something that everybody wrestles with the idea in their mind. but the ability to heal yourself and others. Kind of a regeneration factor, but for others as well. Now, the problem with it, though, is that ethical question. Would you want to live forever? Would you want to be able to turn it off at any point and choose to die? Would you want to have that kind of a control? Or, I personally, I'm terrified of death. And I might eventually reach a point where I would be okay with it. But I can't really see myself ever wanting to die other than if I'm in horrible pain and I just need to get out of it. Which, of course, you wouldn't feel that if you were, self-healing kind of a situation.
Can I ask a question real fast?
Shoot.
No.
If it's regenerative and you're saying that you have the ability to live forever, is this, like, regeneration also keeping you, like, are you able to, like, unage yourself?
That would be interesting. I mean, that would be kind of cool because, they do in TV shows and all that all the time where somebody's lived forever and they basically stay 30 years old because that's like the magic age TV shows. And then what do they do when they reach a certain age and they go past all the people that they know? Well, they need to create a new identity for themselves and all that because nobody obviously is 30 years old for 200 years.
Right.
I don't know, like would that be something that you'd be able to pull off where you could age yourself along with people and then do that kind of a thing and start all over and be, a 15-year-old runaway? Or like, even age yourself down to like an infant where you go to an orphanage and then, we don't know who he is, so let's actually give yourself a brand new birth certificate and start all over. And
that's weird though, because would you like not only be like unaging yourself? Would you be like dumbing your brain down like to the intelligence of an infant?
That would be difficult. Yeah, because
their brains don't.
Their brains are smaller. I think if you were going to revert yourself like that, you would lose like everything.
You would have to discover your power all over again.
I would probably choose like 15 as my rewind point.
What about like Benjamin Button rules? Where it's overrated and it sucks.
The one thing I'm afraid of is if you can constantly heal, that's fine. But I mean, you're healing your body. After 500 years and all these identities you've had, all the memories stored in your brain, wouldn't your brain just overload?
Well, wouldn't that heal itself?
All those look at the brain though, the way it works. I don't remember large portions of my life for various reasons. I think your brain would just kind of like defragment, and it wouldn't take everything, but because you've been living on such a larger scale, a longer time frame, I think you would just, if anything, you'd be more inclined to lose. Like, oh man, I really remember the 1800s, but the 1900s, nothing, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, could you reach a point where you don't even remember your parents?
I think easily.
Yeah. Yes.
You probably could, but then there's some things that you just kind of never forget. I, for some reason, remember stuff that has no meaning whatsoever. Like, I don't know why I remember certain things, but and that could be something that, you live several hundred years and you're like, why do I still remember that one time that guy bought, frozen yogurt? Like, just something that you remember, where that one scene from that movie that I saw in 1942 and now it's 2050. It's just it could be one of those odd things. Or you could end up just kind of, if we're talking about like the ideal placement of the world, you could just end up remembering everything and having a much better recollection of things. Just
that would be that would be terrifying to me, because I mean, what if like relationship wise, you would be married multiple times, you'd have all these children, and you'd just be watching them die?
Well, yeah, I didn't want to make this point, but like if you look at vampire movies and like TV shows like Being Human or like even Anne Rice's books, these vampires become very sorrowful and they hate the fact that they're immortal because they're watching all the people that they love die, and they just want it to end. So I feel like that would eventually happen to you.
And that would be the selfish inclusion of the being able to heal other people.
Yeah.
Because you could always kind of drag them along with you. Now, of course,
but are they going to want to?
Right, that's the problem with that. Do they want to, and do you ever give them that euthanasia option of I don't want to do that, let me die? It's a real ethical problem. More so,
and you just keep healing them.
You're like, I'll let you die. I'm just kidding. I healed you.
Just kidding. No.
Yeah, but see,
I just gave you temporary cancer for a year.
See, the problem that I have with immortality is that also, I'm like you. I also have a fear of dying.
I'm a human as well.
Well, yeah, but if you lived literally forever, eventually Earth is going to die. Eventually the sun will be destroyed. Well, then are you in the future and man has moved to another planet? Well, you're going to outlive that planet, and you're going to have to move to another planet, and you're going to outlive that planet. Eventually the universe itself will be destroyed, and then where are you?
That's the thing.
Can you heal yourself quick enough to repair the damage that just living in space or even non-space, whatever would happen after the death of the universe?
Well, that's the thing that would be the scarier option for me, which that is the only reason that I have qualms about like the immortality thing, is because if there's anything about death that scares me the most, it's the infinite concept of it. The end all be all. You shut off and you're done. I don't like even going to sleep. I mean, I partially do it because of how busy I am. I partially do it because it's just something that I'm not necessarily good at for some reason. My body doesn't need as much sleep as a lot of other people. But I also just don't like the idea of being unconscious, because I don't like, not waking up. I've passed out one time in my entire life. And I woke up petrified because I was just like, I didn't like that idea of standing in my bathroom and literally just the next second I was out of it, clunked my head on the wall, didn't even know it happened in the middle of it. And, I don't like that infinite black nothingness of what it is. So I certainly would not want to live in an entropy kind of a universe situation.
Now, here's the thing, though. If you survived long enough, you have to think that at some point we would find a way to get ourselves past the dimensions that we're in, and at that point, the universe itself doesn't even matter.
But what if the multiverse ended?
Well, who's to say the multiverse does end? Time is not finite. It's infinite.
Is it?
That's not true. Yes. Scientists know that there was a time.
There's a land before time.
There was a point before time, and
there's a starting point, but once again, it's infinite. It's cyclical. It's just going to reach that point.
We can't prove that it's cyclical though, and science is showing that time is slowing down. When the dinosaurs were on this planet, scientists have figured that they experienced 23-hour days. The days aren't 23 hours anymore; they're 24 hours.
They're even longer than
that's completely different. You're talking about
that's the rotation of the Earth.
Time itself is actually moving faster as far as time itself.
Well, I guess I misread that, but the point is that the time in relation to, it's that the universe is pulling itself apart, and that directly affects the correlation between how time is experienced. And if it began, it has to end. That's kind of like the law of nature. So,
but once again, we don't have enough of an understanding of time to even make that assumption. And once again, I'm saying when we get into these other dimensions and we get a better understanding of not just those dimensions, but the ones we have right now, everything we know right now could be out the window. Mm-hmm. And you would be able to experience all that, and you would go beyond what we even thought was possible.
Yeah,
that's true.
Here's another interesting point. What if you could live forever, but because, like Tony said, what if you were stuck at that, 30? That was your prime number. Well, what if human beings continue to evolve?
Yeah, and you miss out on all the new steps of everything.
Right. What if humans eventually end up looking like Greys or something like that?
Well, then the outcast.
You can't hide forever.
They would find you out, man. And I love that you said Greys.
Yeah, that's a good point.
See, I think the ultimate healing factor, because we've kind of jumped from healing to immortality, but I mean, they do kind of go hand in hand. I think I think Deadpool has it the best because, well, first off, it was given to him, that's kind of cool. But he doesn't have that adamantium skeleton that Wolverine does, which means that he could eventually be killed. Although for the time being, he's got all the benefits. Well, he doesn't have all the benefits because he never regrew that finger, did he? So he is missing a finger, Deadpool.
Oh, I don't even know.
I don't know. But I know there was the one issue where he kept annoying superheroes to try to kill him because he actually was trying to commit suicide, and even the Hulk couldn't stop him.
Yeah, his thing is he's like in love with death, right? Like the personification of death. So he's constantly trying to get back to her, but he can't.
Yeah, and for some reason Thanos is too. He loves death.
Yeah.
She's just a little whore. But I think his body is much more destructible. So I mean, in theory, he can die, and that there was a period in time when he lost the healing factor. I really don't know the specifics on that, but.
But how about Wolverine? We were saying that Deadpool is more susceptible to death and all that. What about when you just rip the adamantium out of him, and then that's the end of it? Then he's back to having. Doesn't he have technically like a worse healing factor than Deadpool does?
Well, I mean, even worse than that. What if Magneto just bent the bone in his leg? Didn't actually take the metal out, but just bent the bone and twisted it. Then as many times as he tries to heal, he constantly has a leg that he can't use.
Oh, that would be fucked up.
That's.
Have they ever done that?
Thought about that. That's actually brilliant.
Have they ever done that in the comics? I don't remember.
I don't think they have.
Scoliosis.
That would be fucking awesome, though. He just kind of goes like, "Hey, fuck you, dude," and he like permanently bends his middle finger or something like that.
Bends his spine to like the professor in that one episode of Futurama.
Well, scoliosis is no joke. I do have that.
I'm
My
sorry,
brother has it too.
Hates you.
It sucks. My back hurts all the time.
Yeah. But we've gone through a lot of like real ethical questions and all this other kind of stuff. What are some fun ones? I mean, nobody's going to be like, I really want to shoot webs out of my hands. Or
I got one. The ability to make anything in the world taste like pizza.
Oh man,
I bet it wouldn't work with Papa John's.
I would be.
That's great.
I would be so healthy.
Now wait a minute. Is this you could make anything taste like pizza, or anything you eat will taste to you like pizza?
I love how we're going through the actual like for even a power like this. It's got to be like, hold on, I need to clarify.
Is it obvious we've got nothing better to do on a Saturday night?
Anybody, I touch it and I can make it taste like pizza.
Well, then you're gonna have to be able to turn that off, because I mean, if everything you touched tasted like pizza,
no. It's that I can do it. It's not that everything I touch automatically starts tasting like pizza.
It's and even if it did, touch here.
It's not the Skittles guy.
Yeah.
Or like, do you remember the Kids Next Door, where the kid everything he touched turned into chocolate?
Or how about this? Everything I touch with my left hand tastes like pizza.
Don't touch your dick.
Why not just everything you touch, you have the ability to change the taste of? That way, if you get sick of pizza or whatever, and you just want to make a whole lot of things that taste like, there's weird ass people out there that.
I was trying to come up with unique superpowers. What my whole thing was. So I actually heard this quandary on another podcast, and I would like to bring it here because I think it's a really interesting one.
Actually, I'm going to use that as a breaking point, and we're going to pick up in the next section with this topic. So stay tuned if you want to know what's coming next.